married at the time, and I was a student at the Technion in Haifa. We were watching a movie in the student lounge. I don't remember what movie it was, but I do remember the movie screen going dark and the newscaster coming on and announcing,
ממשלת ישראל מודיעה בתדהמה, בצער רב וביגון עמוק, על מותו של ראש הממשלה ושר הביטחון, Yitzhak Rabin.
Next morning we all got on buses and we went down to Kikar Malchei Israel, this square.
So do you remember where you were for this one? Do you remember the November 4th, 1995?
The grief was in multiple levels. He was a palmachnik and also lochem shalom, a peace fighter. And then we also mourned for the peace process, of course. Our kids were going to be the first ones that weren't going to go to the army. And just before I came here, I drove my son for his tzav rishon, the first time when he needs to report to the IDF. The third level, I think, of grief was for Judaism. And I say this with a great deal of sadness. Yigal Amir shot Rabin in the name of Jewish values. It was a Jewish murder. He was inspired by Jewish leaders, by rabbis. He looked to the same Jewish bookshelf that's behind me and was inspired to do what he did. Some like to refer to him as an esef shoteh, as a wild weed, right? That he was on the extreme side. But you know what? He came from mainstream Israelis. He was a student at Bar Ilan University.
He's the one that you would want your daughter to bring home. He was clean-cut, he was in law school, he was smart, and he's never repented still. Like, he's still proud, and he did the right thing, and he did the moral thing, and he did the religious thing, and he did what God wanted.
The immediate effect was this tear in Israeli society between religious and non-religious. Judaism led Yigal Amir to do the most anti-democratic thing, which is to kill a prime minister. So many Israelis reacted by saying, well, if this is Judaism, then I want nothing to do with it. For 20 years, I think Israel's been grappling with that whole tension between those two terms, Judaism and democracy. For me, the two terms, Jewish and democratic, in the context of the state of Israel, are really like Siamese twins. They're inseparable, and I think what it comes down to really is how we choose to define Judaism and how we choose to define democracy. Judaism is not viewed as merely a religion, but rather as a culture and a nation, a set of values, and a people with a shared history and purpose. The Israeli Declaration of Independence. And I would argue that that text is essentially the hyphen between Jewish and democratic. When we say Jewish state, what do we mean, right? Do we mean a state governed by Jewish law, by halacha? Do we mean that it's the official religion of the state of Israel? Is it the state for the Jewish people? Is it only for the Jewish people? All these questions need to be answered for us to define a Jewish state. And when we say democratic, what do we mean? Is it just a regime, a mishtar demokrati? Or do we mean democratic in its values and in its culture? If you take the concept of tzelem Elohim, the image of God, each person is created in the image of God. Chaviv adam hanivra b'tzelem. Blessed is the person who is created in the image of God. Essentially, that's a Hebrew term or a Jewish term first talking about equality and human rights. I argue if we could find the Jewish origin for the principles of democracy, then there is no conflict between Judaism and democracy.
Why must we be forced to apologize and cater to others' roles? Zionism has been the one thing that has allowed us to create what we have created today. Why can't there be a proud Zionism at the same time?
I'm not sure I buy into this premise that there's Zionism and democracy. For me, Zionism is Israel as a Jewish and democratic state. I don't believe that Israel needs to be neutral in its identity in order to be a true democracy. We need to provide a positive and peace-seeking and justice-seeking and democracy-seeking interpretation of Jewish law. The values of the state of Israel as a Jewish and democratic state reflects the uniqueness of the state of Israel and of Israeli society. We're not like all nations. We're not like all the peoples. We are a democracy, and our values are like the values of any democratic state, but we're also a Jewish state.
Where do you look for hope? What does the future look like? What does an Israeli on the street see as hope?
There's certain things that change with an earthquake, and other things change slowly, a drop of water on a stone, right?
Rabbi Akiva, right?
Rabbi Akiva. His legacy was the trust that he managed to build at the time on both among the Jewish Israelis and on the other hand with Arafat and the Palestinians, that he was able to do it. Our charge for us and for our generation and for our kids is to turn the waters around and do the next 20 years in the other direction, back again.
Let the sun rise, light up the morning. The purest of prayers will not bring us back. He whose candle was snuffed out and was carried in the dust, bitter crying won't wake him up and won't bring him back. Nobody will bring us back from a dead and darkened pit here. Neither the victory cheer nor songs of praise will help. So just sing a song of peace and don't whisper a prayer. Just sing a song of peace in a loud shout. And allow the sun to penetrate through the flowers. Don't look back. Let go of those departed. Lift your eyes with hope, not through the rifle sights. Sing a song of love and not for wars. Don't say the day will come. Bring on the day. Because it's not a dream, and in all the city squares, cheer only for peace.